Hey there, ghosties. I hope you're ready to get your kicks on episode 66 of the Ghost Lights podcast. This evening, we sat down with Megan Vanderhey, talking about her early career in Chicago, her favorite sports underdog movies, and no podcast is complete without a little talk of Taco Bell. That's right, Taco Bell, an unofficial sponsor of all of our late night cravings. Anyway, RMS, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. You're a G, and I'm just poking fun. And you should all stick around to the bitter end where I sing to Megan Vanderhey, and we all know how embarrassing that is going to go. All right, Dan, give us War by the Hypnotic Brass Ensemble. Ghosties, it is your boy Sam Gilstrap. We are back once again, this time with the queen of Colorado musical theater, Megan Vanderhey's in the house. Hello, Megan.
Hey, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for saying yes and being on. This is great.
Of course. This is very cool.
Yeah, we have never really officially met. We've always been way too talented, so we're always busy. We're not always around to like post show like gatherings and stuff. I think the closest I got to actually meeting you was I had an audition for Robert when he did the Forgetting Maine or something like that.
Oh, Almost Maine. Yes.
Almost Maine. Thank you. I thought it was the other title was stuck in my head. So he was doing that at the Avenue Theater, which RIP, shout outs to the Avenue Theater.
Yeah.
But that was probably as close as I got to like
6 degrees of separation there, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
I love it. Yeah. No, I have to. I was telling Sam this. I'm terrified of all of this kind of interview stuff. So I try to steer away from this stuff, but I couldn't resist Sam and Dan's invitation.
Well, I'm really glad that was enough to bring you over to the dark side with us. Or should say the light side, because we are the Ghost Lights podcast.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Shameless plug. But yes, I will try and I will do my best to like keep this as a relaxed atmosphere as possible. So with that being said, my first question is, who did you vote for? No, don't answer that. I'm kidding.
Oh, but I can. Okay.
Oh, okay. I mean, anyway, I do actually have a very serious first question.
Oh, okay.
I want you to close your eyes and I want you to picture this scenario, okay?
All right.
It's 11 p.m. You just got done with a really exhausting rehearsal, but that Taco Bell on the way home is open. What are you going to get?
Oh my God. Did you know that like Taco Bell is my jam? Okay. So I go every time and I get 2 bean burritos and a crunchy taco with a side of nacho cheese to dip my bean burritos into.
Damn. That is dedication to the Taco Bell craft right there.
Oh, here's the deal. Like Taco Bell, that's the key to my heart. So for me, people like it's really sad when people who know me very well around Christmas time, I don't get fancy gift cards. I get gift cards to Taco Bell.
Nice. There we go.
That is my place. It was really sad because I was a little nervous during COVID that they would I think they used to recognize my voice when I'd pull up in the drive-through. So I was a little nervous that maybe they would actually forget who I was. But yeah.
Did that happen?
No, they still remembered.
As they should. A good customer is hard to find.
Now, in fairness,
yes.
Only second to Taco Bell. This is really going to disgust you, but 7-Eleven nachos, baby. Like I am the queen of 7-Eleven nachos because there's a whole science to it. You know, you've got to take out some of the chips, right? You've got to break over the package, take out some of the chips, and then it's the idea of it's this layering effect that you've got to do with the nacho cheese, and then adding more layers, and then more nacho cheese, and then some jalapenos on the top. I mean, just to really ensure the fact that you are going to shit fire the next day. Which is ultimately my goal.
I think everybody can admit to loving that feeling the next day.
Oh, is there no better feeling than that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a pain earned in fire.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a badge of honor right there.
this is a true window into my soul because I still eat like I'm a flippant college kid. If I could live off of 7-Eleven nachos and Taco Bell every day, and some weeks that actually happens.
Hey, I have the long ago, the days of bouncing from work to rehearsal, there was nothing but 7-Eleven and fast food stops. There's no judgment here on the Ghost Lights podcast.
See, that's never stopped. Into my 40s, Sam, that has never stopped.
37, I'm on that way.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, this gray in my beard is not makeup. It is all earned.
Oh, I realized that after shoveling snow this week. I'm getting old, Sam. I'm getting old.
Oh, not that old. And there's always like YouTube yoga, so you can earn some of those years back.
If I did yoga, I can't do it. I can't. No, for me, I'm all about, the running on the treadmill, the sweating, the yoga is just, it's too zen. I can't, my mind wanders and I can't do it. It's too zen.
That sounds like you don't like to.
I'm not a very zen person.
You don't like to be alone with your own thoughts.
Oh my God, no, it's a dark place, which is why COVID has just been the shits for me, because talk about just leaving you alone constantly with your thoughts. Normally I just bury myself in work so I don't have to deal with anything.
There you go. Yeah. Same. I'm really glad that we're taking this time to get to know each other. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I do.
See, I think we're gonna be fast friends after all this is done. I'll meet you at Taco Bell and we'll just, we'll bond
There's a
over
Taco
our
Bell
burritos.
right across the street from my house.
No way.
Yeah, there is.
Oh.
And a blackjack pizza. So it's nothing but quality food over here.
Oh, it makes me sad. We moved and I used to have one that was just right around the corner, and now we've moved and the Taco Bell's a little harder to get to. So I'm trying to deal with that.
It's not hard to get to if you want it.
Oh, and trust me, I do. I will drive to any lengths to get to a Taco Bell.
but not tonight, because it's past your.
It's past my we're doing
eating time.
It's past the eating time. We're doing the intermittent fasting. Robert's ready to kill me, but that's okay.
Hey, just tell him start with a big bowl of oatmeal in the morning. He'll be fine.
Oh jeez.
He'll get used to it.
I should tell him that.
Yeah. Anyway, I do have another important question.
Okay.
We looked into your website's bio,
okay,
and it gave us some tidbits. So the Taco Bell thing, I wish I knew in advance. Like, oh, I'm gonna knock her out with this little gem of knowledge that I knew in private. No, I had to look it up 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Also, but I pulled up something that was like definitely proves that it should be me and you, and Robert can go take a hike.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling him out.
Okay.
So I'm calling him out.
I like this.
What is your top 4 sports underdog movie?
Okay. So definitely in the top 3. You're talking Rocky, you're talking Remember the Titans, and then Hoosiers.
Ooh, interesting. What's battling out for that 4th spot?
Oh, that's a good question. What is battling for that?
Miracle? Rudy?
Well, and it's so funny. See, Rudy's one of Robert's favorites, but I don't know why Rudy never really got to me, albeit it was sad. So we lost our dear Rocky Balboa, our little 5-pound Chihuahua. We lost him in November.
Oh no.
And we ended up we got a new dog and we named him Rudy Rudiger. So, I mean, we really are entrenched in that whole sports underdog theme. I'm trying to think. Okay, I love Major League.
Yeah.
I love League of Their Own. There's something about baseball. I mean, it's got to be. Oh God, this is embarrassing. What's the Kevin Costner?
Field of Dreams.
Thank you. Field of Dreams is in there for sure. There's something about baseball that makes me think of my dad, and so baseball underdog movies definitely. But The Natural never did it for me.
Oh yeah, The Natural never did it for me either. Robert Redford always struck me, and it's not to take anything away from his ability as an actor, but he always seemed more what's the word I want? Pompous in the roles he was playing. He always had this higher, holier than thou quality to every character.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Which made it hard for me to like get into him.
Fair enough.
Like, doesn't mean I can't enjoy the hell out of him in a lot of the movies. Butch Cassidy, All the President's Men. But
yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Bull Durham. Bull Durham's a good one.
Tin Cup, if we're still talking about Kevin Costner.
Okay, that one was bad. That one was just bad. But I have watched the majority of them, and I don't know what it is. See, I grew up. My dad's a tennis pro, so I grew up playing tennis. Arts was never really kind of supposed to happen for me. I was supposed to be this. I was this little jock, and I was gonna, I wanted to go to the Olympics on the tennis team, and so I ended up, kind of falling into the arts shortly thereafter. But there's something about sports that I think, to me, it's like when you're in a cast and you've got that click, and there's that unity and that sense of team. I've always tried to associate to acting as well, because I mean, I truly think, you're all in the same team, hopefully. And for God's sake, every single position on that team is extraordinarily important. And therefore you can't do your job if you don't have, your safety or it's like, I don't know. I think the two worlds are very similar in some aspects.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm a little pissed off that they've been able to go back and do their gig a little bit faster than we have, but but no, so growing up playing sports, I think that was some of my love for that, I think. And it just always reminds me of my dad. So yeah, I can't help it. Good sports underdog movie is just, it's my jam. So what about you? What are your top?
My top 4 is, I have to put Rudy in there. It was the first sports movie I was ever introduced to. So on the off chance that it's available and on TV, it's going on. Okay. It stays on. So we got Rudy, Remember the Titans for me, Left Side, Strong Side.
Yes.
I love that Disney and Denzel Washington erased racism. They fixed it. They fixed all the racism in that one movie. Yeah, all you got to do is play football together.
It's so true. Oh my God! In the end, and you sit there and you look at that one guy, Gary, who then in the car accident, and I can't handle it. It makes me cry every single time.
The thing that sucks about that movie is the reality of the whole situation.
Yes.
Yeah. So we won't bring reality into this top 4 list, because it still doesn't stun on Remember the Titans.
Fair enough. Okay.
Then I throw in I had them. I was thinking about them all before you got on, and now I'm the one that's scared. Rudy.
Okay.
Remember the Titans. I would say Cool Runnings.
Okay.
Jamaican bobsled movie with John Candy.
Yeah.
And I guess my dark horse would be not Hidalgo or the movie Dark Horse. I'm not making a horse movie reference. It would have to be Miracle. And that wasn't always the case. Miracle grew on me.
Did it really? Because that's Kurt Russell, right?
It was a Kurt Russell movie.
Okay.
I think I watched it the first time because I love that piece of sports history.
Right.
And then my friend Brian was watching it and he goes like, man, Miracle on Ice is a really good movie. I'm like, all right, let's go back and we watched it. And I think it's Kurt Russell's performance in it that is the best acting I've seen him do in a long time.
Really? Okay. I got to go back and check that out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trust me, it's what you said. It's like whenever and granted, Robert and I don't have cable, but if we happen to turn on, Charge on 2.2, and some of the old movies that'll come on, if it is a sports movie, you're right. It'll stay on. I can't help it. And the messed up part is, to this day, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen all of the Rocky movies, but I swear to God, Robert hates watching them with me, because I will sit and every single time he gets put back in that corner and I'm yelling at the TV for him to block his face. He never puts his gloves up to block his face. And you just know, you're like, dude, how many times do you have to get hit in the head? It floors me, but yeah.
It really does, especially now that I'm a big football fan, and the CTE thing. I'm like, Rocky doesn't make it to Rocky 4. We don't get his fight against Ivan Drago. If this were based in any realm of reality, he has been concussed so many times that his brain is just this gray block of wood.
So true. But Rocky 4, okay, the training montage, that is one of my favorites.
This is one of the greatest training montages of all time.
The whole time that he's lifting that whole cart up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it.
Drago!
Oh, those are my favorites. Okay, well, that was an easy set of questions. I like these, Sam. These are great.
Of course. I wanted to start off gentle, slow, get to know each other. Find out why sports movies are so important. I couldn't agree with you more. When I got out of college, my foray into acting wasn't because, oh, I was taken to this other world and I learned something, spiritual about myself. That didn't come for like another 20 years of being alive.
Right.
I was in school. It was an easy A, and it was the easiest way out of college. And all I cared about in college was, how was I going to become a head football coach in the NFL, and how I was going to parlay that into a sports commentator career.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Ah.
I mean, I play Madden at home as a 37-year-old man and do the color commentary.
I love that you do the color commentary, because Robert plays Madden constantly and I still don't understand the damn game. I like, God bless. I can't do that to save my life. But okay, so I'll top that, because I moved the minute I graduated from college. Of course, where do music theater majors move? To Chicago.
Yeah.
But that's where I chose to move. And I swear to God, I settled in Chicago because I thought every guy there looked like Mike Ditka. And that just made my heart so flippin' happy. And that's why I stayed in Chicago.
So sweater vests really do it for you, huh?
Hey, what can I say?
Mustaches and aviator glasses, heart attacks at 30.
No, I know. I always think back to that Saturday Night Live skit of, the Bears and those guys. Oh, I just love it. But yeah, so yeah, that's the kind of guy. And obviously you can see I ended up with, the John Goodman, Mike Ditka kind of guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's also super talented and kind-hearted, and would not mortgage his team's future for Ricky Williams.
True. All right. That's true. I'll give you that. That's true. All right.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah, there is that. That's true. But part of the reason I fell in love with Robert, though, too, is because he does kind of have that. He's got that kind of John Goodman, Chicago kind of vibe. But you're right. He's got the Rocky Balboa heart of gold. And that's what got me in the end. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, the Ghostlights podcast, reminding you that love is still a thing. Never forget.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Do you have I would assume you've been to Soldier Field or Wrigley Field.
No, Wrigley Field. Yes. So I lived very close to Wrigley Field when I was out in Chicago. Never been to Soldier Field, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But
do you have a favorite Wrigley Field moment? Were you sitting next to Steve Bartman?
No, it wasn't. But when I was out there, I was working at this spa in Chicago, at the Peninsula Spa, and one of our members had front row seats on the first baseline, and she would invite me to games. And I mean, that was magical to sit at Wrigley Field on the first baseline in the front row. And the sideline guys come over and they chat you up, and everybody, it was awesome. It was like that. That's probably my favorite Wrigley, outside of, the vine growing on the wall in the fall and all of that. But yeah, that's definitely pretty cool.
The Cubs always have a special place in my heart, because in the summertime, like, I would have cable, but there wouldn't be a lot to watch for me during the day. I'm a big fan of this particular podcast, and a lot of the movies they talk about on this podcast were like being re-shown during this time, but I would never watch them because sitting through a movie at that age was hard for me.
Okay.
And I would watch the WGN and get
Chicago baseball.
Yeah. I get the Cubs and I get the White Sox at least 4-day games a week.
Nice.
And I could sit there and I could watch. And so I fell in love with Harry Carey before he became a meme and an impersonation that I try to do. Cubs win. Hey, Megan, bringing up the Cubs. Who were some of the players on the team that you would watch on that first base side? Was Rhino there? Mr. Sandberg?
Nice. Sosa was there when I was, and that was, that was a time period too. I remember my first wedding, my first marriage happened right as the Cubs had made it to the playoffs. And it was the first time in history and everything else. And then that dude caught the ball in the stands. Do you remember all of this?
Oh, I know Steve Bartman.
And they blew up the ball at Harry Carey's restaurant. I mean, there was this huge gathering, but they had the actual ball and they blew it up, and it was this whole ceremony and it was pretty cool.
That poor guy can never show his face in Chicago.
I think he had to move. I actually think he had to leave. I think he had to leave Chicago.
There's a 30 for 30 about that night and his subsequent exile from the Midwest. You
Yeah,
gotta go.
but
You
that's
gotta.
the thing.
Yeah.
That was the part I loved about Chicago was it's so flippin' cold there. It's
Mhm.
an indoor kind of town for the most part. I mean, so they love their baseball in the summertime for sure. But I mean, it's a serious sports town. And then other than that, like there are over 300 theaters in the Chicago area because everybody's going inside to find stuff to do.
That's a
So,
great point. That's a
oh,
great
it's an
point.
awesome city.
Where were some of the places you performed in Chicago?
So I worked for Pegasus and I worked for Porchlight and I worked for a place called the Phoenix Ascending and
Okay.
I worked for Circle Theater. I worked for the Apple Tree Theater. A lot of these are gone now. I mean, and I've not been back to Chicago since I left. So I've been back since 2005.
Oh.
But cool area to start. I mean, I would recommend that to anybody who like. For me, I graduated and and you think you know everything, and then you move to a city and you realize you know jack shit about anything. And so, but it was a good city to start in because I really wanted to improve my acting chops. And in Chicago, I mean, there's a theater in every basement and attic, and maybe there are 30 seats to a theater. And so the audience is right on top of you. There's nowhere to hide. And I'd never performed in anything outside of a proscenium kind of stage. So it was an awesome experience to be out there and to truly have to I don't want to say sell it, but again, I guess there was nowhere to hide. You could not be inauthentic in your performance at all, which I suppose that's what we all dream about,
Totally.
giving a very sincere, authentic performance. But how often does that actually happen?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's. I would say for the artist, that can be a tricky question to answer for themselves.
yeah.
I mean, you're just you do all your homework. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
people at home, hopefully you do your homework. You get off book. You get your blocking memorized or as organically in the brain as possible, depending on what process works best for you.
Right.
And then you try and get onto the stage and let the character shine through the most.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and if you're doing all of that, it is hard to like say that maybe Friday night's performance was authentic or less or more so than Saturday or
Yeah.
Thursdays, whatever, how it breaks down for you. And I would say that in a place that is known for its intimate theater spaces, that those are good training grounds to find that level of authenticity. I think that we're all trying to strive for. I mean,
Yeah.
when the
Oh, for
audience
sure.
is, when the audience is on top of you, there's no, like you said the words, there's no place to hide. You
No,
can't, it's
can't fake
harder.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and they see right through you. And that was the part that I think that's when I learned, there are those nights when the emotions are just right there and they're so easy to access. And then there are those nights when, oh God, it's like you just can't get it to come no matter how hard you're working at it. And it's because you're working at it that it's not coming, but you're trying to repeat the same kind of, investment that you had the night before. And I had to learn that, if it's not there, it's not there, and then stop trying to force it and stop trying to make it happen. You just got to live within the moment that you're in at that exact time. And I mean, I suppose that's the joy of acting is there's no performance that's going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It intrigues me to hear you say this because I mean, as much as I knew about you before this evening, I've seen your name attached to musicals. It sounds like what you're saying is stuff that I've learned predominantly from a career that's been built from straight plays. This, if it's not there, how much does that impact a musical performance for you?
Same as it would for you. Same as it would for any actor, I think. I think that there's they're just those there's those moments that oh my God, the tears just come so naturally and so easily, and you don't have to work at it. And the next night you're like, oh my God, I can't squeeze one out if I, and it's like you've grown past the point of just trying to, not blink so that the tears can come, or just stare into a particular light so the tears can, like, you've kind of grown past that point. So you want them to be authentic and to, but it's the same exact thing. Musicals or straight plays. And it was funny. Here I moved to Chicago, which was, I remember getting off the plane and it felt like home. And I did not get that same sense when I went to New York. It just didn't feel like it was quite the right fit. And so that's how I ended up in Chicago as a music theater person, which still is kind of stupid. But and I never did a single straight theater audition the whole time I was in Chicago. And I remember upon moving to Denver, I was like, you will not do that. You're just going to go, you're going to audition for everything. And I did, which was, I can't even tell you, Sam, it's the coolest thing in the world to float in both circles from time to time, because all the different people that you get to know. I mean, that's been the coolest part for me in being in Denver theater, is just being able to mingle within those two different worlds. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the arts really attract a unique group of people. And if you got the good fortune to be able to walk through these two groups as if we're not all artists, as if we are separate in some capacity, you to bounce through those and to collect the personalities that jive well with you. I mean, I love it whenever I get to talk to a friend of mine that I had the good fortune of working with later on in my career, but knew him through his work, Tim Howard.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it took just to, like, whenever me and him like chime in and have a conversation about whiskey, beer,
of course,
sports, his work, my work, his relationship with a mutual good friend of ours, Stephanie Hesse. I mean, it's great to have those types of bonds, because it takes a special kind of person to make this their refuge and or calling.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I mean, we're all a little crazy.
Absolutely. I talk to my dog all the time. He's never going to respond. He'll never say anything back. But I bounce a lot of opinions off of him.
But don't you think I swear to God, there are certain times I talk to the dog, because I do that too. And I swear to God, I think he does respond. Like, he does have his, his way of communicating.
Absolutely. Mike's main form of response to any of my problems is to fart and then readjust himself, like move to the other end of the couch.
I do have to admit, I was talking to Rudy the other day, and shortly after our conversation, he started licking himself, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad that's how deeply that went for you, because I felt like we were really connecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me lick my balls. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Let me lick the spot that you butchered.
Exactly. Let me remind you just how mean you are.
Or got problems? You got problems? Look what you did to me.
That's so true.
Look what you did to my boys. I digress about spaying and neutering your pets, which those of you at home, please do so if you haven't done that with your pet already. How did you get into theater? How did it happen to you? We talked about sports, and so that.
Yeah. So I always somehow, I think, I don't remember even how this happened, but my family discovered that I could sing, and we were living in Cheyenne, Wyoming at the time. And so they put me in the Cheyenne Children's Chorale and that kind of thing. And so I kind of developed as a vocalist. And then I remember a friend of mine who was a dancer. She said, listen, they're having community theater auditions, and we should both go and audition for this show, and we can do it together, and it'll be really fun. She ended up dropping out, but I followed through. And it was at that point, my family had moved to Greeley, and it was through the Independent Stampede Troupe, which is still there today. And I was auditioning for Brigadoon. And went in and just sang I didn't have any sheet music. I sang a cappella. I did everything wrong, that you should never do. And they didn't quite know what to do with me, because I had this very big voice. And so they ended up sticking me in the adult chorus, because they didn't think that I could blend into the children's chorus. And I just remember it was from that moment, I would sit in the wings and I would watch all of the scenes taking place. And it was such a different world than what I'd grown up in thus far. And I just think the lights and I don't know, it was magical to me. And at that point we were performing at the Civic Center in in Greeley, and it was a big, beautiful space. And I just remember trying to imagine myself on that stage and performing in front of all of those people, you know, as one of the leading parts. And so that's kind of what started all of it. My grandparents always had season subscriptions to Country Dinner Playhouse. So I grew up going to shows there. And so the next show that, you know, I insisted on being in was Sound of Music, much to my parents' dismay. And I auditioned for that all over the state and performed numerous times as Liesl, you know, I am 16 going on 17. And yeah, my folks were definitely Sound of Music out by the time I finished doing all the different dinner theaters and performing in that piece, unable to drive as they were having to take me all over the state to do that. So yeah, but at that point, I don't know, it was just this magical place for me. I loved the sound and the lights, and still to this day, I love to be able to sit in a dark, quiet theater before anybody's gotten there, before, you know, even with just the ghost light on. I love sitting there, and I just love, I don't know, I love the quietness of it, but it's like you can just sense every creative, magical moment that happened in there. Still to this day, I think that there's no greater place than in a dark and quiet theater. So that's kind of how it all started. And I knew from that point on. I was cast in my first show when I was 11, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So from that point on, I just majored in it in college, and yeah, that's all she wrote. So yeah, it's not an incredibly exciting story, but yeah.
Hey, it's your story. Your story is special enough.
Okay, yeah. So
how has that magic changed for you? Has it at all? Has it evolved?
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think any performer can tell you that they've maintained the same degree of magic from the first time that they hit the stage to their present life. It definitely ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's the show. Well, and as a performer, sometimes you just happen to catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've got to be honest, it's only happened maybe a handful of times for me, where it's like, it's the right piece, and it's the right cast, and it's the right venue, and the right director, and and it's like all the pieces come together to just make this magical, electric kind of experience. Yeah, I want to say maybe that's happened 5 times in my performing career, where everything comes together. Yeah. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's still pretty magical. With a dose of reality, though, you get a little older, and I don't know. You start looking at your retirement account. and occasionally some of the magic wanes a little bit as you go, oh, you had to be a performer. You had to be a performer. But, every now and then I remember I was at the Fox in 2015, and we were doing Big Fish. And Charlie Packard and Brandon Case and, oh, good Lord, all of those guys would use any and every excuse to do like the potato launchers of, flying fish through the air. And I mean, any kind of technical gizmos and gadgets that they could, instill in the show, they did. But there was something, I remember watching the opening number every night backstage, like right over Lindsay Sullivan's stage management desk. And it filled me with that childlike magic again of theater. And there was something about that particular show that, for whatever reason, I don't know, through time, and you get a little hardened, you get a little jaded. And there was something about that show that somehow thawed my heart a little bit. And I just feel like it opened me back up again to the magic of theater. So I don't know. So Sam, I guess answering your question, it comes and goes for me. Yeah. I wish that I could still maintain that magical awe that I first started out with. And I tell you what, I think I'm thinking all of us are going to have that magical awe when we finally get back to doing it again
Yeah.
after
I
having a
would agree
nice
with you.
year break. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that I think you start to take things for granted, you know,
100%.
and maybe that kind of you work extraordinarily regularly too, and there's just, you know, when you're going from show to show to show to show, at times it's difficult to remember to stay in the moment and truly enjoy that show because you're already thinking about the audition for the next show and the next show. And so um,
Yeah.
I, I think I do best when I'm maintaining, you know, in the moment appreciation of what I have.
Yeah. I think for me, and you mentioned one of the things that you still often like to do is sit in the dark of the theater and just kind of just be there,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're just relaxing after a day of work before they turn the lights on and it's time to go to work again
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Um, for me, I started doing this later on, with the last like 3 or 4 shows before the pandemic hit. I would get dressed early and I would get to my spot as early as I possibly could in terms of like not throwing off the traffic backstage. And I would get, and the moment in mind for me is I'm remembering Curious Incident over at Betsy.
Okay.
And I would sit backstage and I would stare at this oval dome that we had created, this half dome. And I would watch like the first scene kind of transpire and just consistently remind myself before I go out there, I'm like, you're really fucking lucky.
Yeah.
You're really lucky. And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but there were year stretches back to back to back where I would just it was it was part of my work day.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't what it was when like I told you at the beginning, I got into theater because it was an easy a means to an end. And then I got challenged and I had to fall in love with it
Mm-hmm.
later. Like it's like a bad romantic comedy, basically. The guy doesn't appreciate his girl.
Yeah.
Then he's faced with what it could look like if he didn't have that person, or
Mm-hmm.
they, I mean, it can happen to anyone. I don't want to get gender specific. And then the last 20 minutes of the movie, it's about reclaiming that love. And I felt like there was this stretch where it was like, yeah, I got it. I know what I'm doing. Even after I took classes and stuff. And this year, I mean, especially on Thursday, particularly for me, was the anniversary of when I lost 3 acting jobs and we went on an extended spring break all in the matter of 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa. And I had to tell that to my football team. I'm coaching my flag football team, and it was a year anniversary to the day. And I just and I was sharing that with them. And then since then it's really kind of brought back that. I mean, I really hope we get a chance to do this in some kind of safe capacity soon.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm vaccinated and that's good for me. And you know, all that stuff aside, I want that opportunity. That next opening night, I've referenced it on here before. That next opening night is going to be epic for all of us, I think.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think one of the first things I got a chance to do, and I want to say, I think this was like in September, Robert and I did a cabaret at Miners Alley. And I kid you not, Sam, I think that there were like maybe 15 to 18 people in the audience. And it brought tears. Like I almost was not able to sing the first song we were going to sing because I was just one of those moments when I thought, oh my God, I've missed you. I've missed this exchange. To me, it's all about the exchange of energy. And I miss that collective experience and that exchange, which is so monumental doing what we do. It's the overwhelming emotion, I think, that's going to hit all of us when we're able to actually do that again.
Yeah.
And I pray to God that we hold on to it. I pray to God it's not one of those things that it's like, you know, you take a vacation and you remember just how good you feel and you try to hold on to that vacation feel when you come back, and then eventually you slip back into the right. You know, I hope that we as actors truly hold on to that sense of how grateful we are to be back in the environments that we've lost. I was terrified when all of it shut down because, I mean, and you start to question who am I outside of all of this, and you know, it was so much my identity that, you know, you can only do so many puzzles and paint by numbers, but it's you know, semi-hobby kind of things, but they don't necessarily define you. I'm just always used to memorizing the next script and just kind of working on that. Oh my God, the hell do you do when there's none of that on the forefront?
Yeah.
It was a really scary time for me. I don't really, as I said earlier, I don't like to be alone with my thoughts. And what a painful year to be alone with your thoughts.
Yeah. Nah, it's not. I feel like for me, the pandemic started for me where I had a roommate, and I was like, they were always good to share their opinions on things, and I would live through that. I would let them talk. And then I realized after once school was going to reopen and I had to like separate myself from that situation to be back in my to be back on my own. It's like how much time I had spent avoiding my own thoughts and kind of separating myself from what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
To where now it's like it's how I'm keeping myself sane is by embracing all of this weirdness and this awkwardness. And like there'll be stretches where you're sitting there going like, am I gonna watch another episode of that? No, I don't think so. All right, let me get up. What am I gonna do instead? Play another video game? Maybe. No, let's take a walk. He doesn't need a walk, but he'll take a walk.
Yes.
And then you come back and then like, okay, let's do something constructive. What's constructive? I'm gonna stack beer cans that are empty in my recycling bin. And that will be my artistic outlet for the day.
Yeah.
I'm making light of the situation, but yeah, I mean, that itch, it's been hard to get scratched. Yeah. I definitely had there were some online opportunities that I had at the beginning of this thing that were really great. And I was really thankful for those. And I caught myself even in those instances, taking the craft of the work for granted.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's not a real rehearsal.
No, I think I did the exact same thing, Sam. Yeah. And it was just like, well, this isn't really what I do. This isn't really the kind of performing that I do. It's different. It's, you know, no, so I would agree with that. I don't know. It's going to be magical. But at the same time though, too, I'm a little terrified to get back. I mean, I can't wait, but I'm also I'm terrified. I'm terrified what theater will look like. I'm terrified. I pray to God that we can still produce big, beautiful shows. But I think that's going to be a ways off.
Yeah.
I hope that theaters were able to survive throughout all of this. That was my big fear, was how many theaters are we going to lose? And you had mentioned earlier, I was on 17th the other day for some reason, and I drove past the Avenue Theater, and it made my heart sink just to see that all boarded up. Oh God, I loved that theater. Well, I thought that was such a cool, magical little space.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite spots in town. So I'm so sad that we lost that one.
This one we lost beforehand.
Yeah, we did.
I'm talking about this one. I'm thinking it was like the Vintage spot before they moved out to Aurora.
Yes.
And it's now like storage for a bar that's on that street. And that's where I got my start. That downstairs grimy basement. Yeah. Yes. Oh, that was my first in the theater performance.
I performed there before it was Vintage's spot. It was the Playwrights.
Yeah.
The Playwright Theater. It was the very first theater I performed at when I moved to Denver.
They were one of my first rejections.
I'll never forget Brian Thompson he was directing the piece I had auditioned for at that time. And here we moved from Chicago, and we were doing theater for, oh God, I mean, you get paid $50 for the whole run out there. You know, I mean, it was just, and I'll never forget as we got into town and I auditioned for Brian and he offered me the part and he said, now I understand you're from Chicago. And he said, but here's the deal. I mean, I can offer you $50 a show. And I remember trying to just keep my voice very level the whole time he was talking to me about this, because I was thinking, oh my God, I used to do shows in Chicago for $250 for the whole run. I was so was like $50 a show. And the fact that I thought that that was really great money is, I mean, that's kind of sad in and of itself, but to me it was at the time. But oh, I loved that place, that place in that basement.
Mhm.
Yes, that basement dressing room down there. And
Oh,
yeah.
nothing like putting on a costume and finding a dead spider in the pocket.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
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 I just remember you'd never want to be alone in that dressing room.
Oh, I hated it.
I thought it was so creepy.
Oh man. Yeah. If those peeling walls could talk.
Oh, but yeah, it made me so sad to watch that space turn, because then I went back later on and I was able to do Grey Gardens for Vintage Theater there. And I was a little sad when they moved from that space out to Aurora too, because I thought that there was something so, granted it's a postage stamp, but there was something still kind of, I don't know. I loved the way the stage was situated. I loved that damn bar that was right there on the corner. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love that bar. I've banged my head on that once. You mentioned Grey Gardens, and I think a podcast with Megan Vandehay would be remiss if we didn't bring it up. So I'm glad that you brought it up. Specifically, my opinion, when I saw that what's Grey Gardens? That's a musical? Yeah. How are they going to do a musical in that small space? And granted, like before that, they did a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, and the list goes on. But like, what's it like doing a musical in an intimate space like that? Like, are you allowed to belt?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think you got to temper it a little bit. I mean, Lord knows, I don't think an audience wants to sit and listen to somebody belt nonstop for 2 hours. That's exhausting.
Well, strap in, because if we're going to a karaoke bar, that's what you get with me.
Saddle up, baby. Yeah. But right. No, but it's the same as like, if you were to go to see, I don't know. So I'm trying to think of, having an actor yell at you, you know, in an intimate space, same kind of thing. So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily require the same, but at the same time, that space could suck up a lot of sound. I mean, and we weren't mic'd at all. And I love being in an intimate space where you don't have to wear a mic. That makes me very happy. Yeah. No, again, that's my favorite. I love performing in small little spaces and doing musicals. I think that there's something so cool about that. I love that odd space at Vintage now, that rectangular room, you know, where you kind of go, God almighty, that's a weird ass space to sing in too. But no, I love those little postage stamp, you know, boxes. I think they're fantastic. Nice. You're so damn close to the audience. They can see and feel everything. And I think it gives you as an actor even a greater range of dynamics to play with, because you can get really quiet and they're still right there with you.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like those spaces allow you that a little more freedom.
Yes.
Which I would, for a kid when he coming out of college, was counterintuitive for me.
Really?
I had 2 lines in Romeo and Juliet in my first show.
Okay.
And I yelled them at the top of my lungs. Do you bite your thumb at me, sir? Anyway.
No, but here's the deal. It's no different than when you're labeled a belter early on in your career, and you feel like the only way that you can move people is to push them back against, you know, their seats.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I think I had a director who looked at me and said, yes, but isn't the goal to draw them into your story versus push them away? And I thought, it was the best thing that any music director or director could ever tell me was, you know, because again, don't get me wrong, listening to somebody who can belt those high notes, there's something incredibly powerful about that. But to me, there's something even more powerful about watching somebody shape and build a song and draw you in versus push you away.
Yeah, absolutely. And those spaces really put you to the test for that.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite performance stories? Like, you talk about those moments or theater experiences where you get 100% buy-in from everybody and it feels like all the pieces fall into place. Is there something that sticks out in your mind?
The ones that stick out in my mind. I don't know. I've been fortunate. I've had some really great ones. Grey Gardens was a hoot. I'll never forget at the old Vintage. We were behind technically, and I don't remember why exactly. I think it was just the damn house was just
Mm.
big and difficult, and I'll never forget. We were trying to figure out uh, how to get the walls in and out quickly and that kind of thing. Or I shouldn't say we were. I was standing in front of the walls as they were trying to dismantle them behind me,
Mm.
and I think that they were being held together by some of those C clamps and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Rebecca Joseph, who was our stage manager, saying that every now and then she'd get a little nervous as she'd watch me performing one of the songs, and you just kind of watch the walls just kind of rock a little bit. She was so nervous that they were just going to come down right on top of me. But uh, gosh, I'm trying to think of what stories I can tell you that won't incriminate anybody.
Mm.
Um,
Any stories about a stagehand walking on in the middle of a solo?
a stagehand walking on in the middle of a solo. God, I can't think of any.
You're two in the moment.
Was there somebody who walked on in the middle of my solo?
I have it. Yeah, I have an inside story. Yeah.
Oh my God, please tell.
So I think it was one of the more recent, and he'll correct me later, I'm sure. But a good friend of mine, Bradley, was working on a show. It was like an assistant stage manager for one of your performances at Vintage of late, and it was like his first day on the job. They needed somebody to come in and like work this particular crew run. So he was like, "Yeah, I got you, Johnny on the spot, there to save the day." And they didn't. Whatever happened, he brought. It was like in the midst of bringing on a table at the start of one of your solos, realized what was happening, and then like slowly walks back
Are you
behind.
serious? I
Yeah.
didn't even, I was not even aware of that. That cracks me up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see here. I'm kind of, I'm tanking on this, on my whole story thing. I knew you were going to ask me a question and my mind goes blank. There was an interesting thing that happened to me.
On the way to the forum.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, that would be a funny thing, not interesting.
Yeah.
But I was down in the Springs doing Fun Home, and I'll never forget. It was opening night, and I was getting ready. I'd just gotten to the theater, and at one point, one of the orchestra members, the gal who played our cellist, came down, and she just said, "Are you the woman who plays the mother?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And she said, "I'm Helen." And I kept looking at her because I was just having one of those, actor moments on the opening night. And I kept thinking, no, I've met you. That's not your name. What do you mean? And of course, she was saying, I'm the character that you're portraying on stage. That's my life. That's my story.
Wow.
That's I've lived this.
Mm.
And I just remember it was one of those times, Sam, when you kind of go, oh God, it made me recognize that every now and then what we do matters in the sense that we are telling somebody's personal story.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it made me feel as though there was additional weight to what I did, or that it really mattered. I mean, I don't know how often you feel that way. Sometimes as an actor, I feel, I don't know, easily dismissed at times. Or Robert and I have often joked about the fact that, if there is the ark that's going to come and, take us away at one point, actors are going to be the last people to board the ship because really, what do we have to offer? And so
no one needs to be entertained.
I suppose. But it's like, how many of us do you really want around? I mean, you don't want that many people trying to, top each other and entertain. So I've always thought that, I wouldn't make it on the ark. But but it was one of those moments that you kind of go, oh, wow, it does matter. It was nice to just have that validation that, you are a part of something that is important. And I know that I know that we take people away from their bad day and that kind of stuff, but it's easy to forget 25 years into doing it that
Absolutely.
that it still matters.
Yeah. Well, for me, I found that for like the first 10 years of my career, people would like stifle laughter or look away before they said, "Oh, that's nice," when I told them that I acted.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, because of those types of reactions, I wouldn't tell people that this is what I did. I wasn't an artist. I would make jokes about how uncreative I was or what have you, and always say that other people told better stories than I did. And then it was no, after a while, and you get a little more confident in it, but it takes a moment like that
Yeah, it does.
to like
And then unfortunately, every year I have to go do my taxes and I have to justify that I am still a contributing member to society.
same. I think I've changed my job title on my 1090 or whatever it is, my 1040 every single year. Sometimes I'm a supply coordinator, sometimes I'm an actor, sometimes I'm a teacher, sometimes I'm a podcaster. That's what it's going to be for 2021.
I
Be
love it.
prepared, the IRS. Give me my money.
I've always stuck with actor, and I remember the poor agent I was going to a while back. She just said, "You lose money doing this every year," and I wanted to look at her and go, "Well, I'm specifically writing a lot off so that yeah." but yeah, I do know that I lose quite a bit of money doing this.
But you're rich in other ways, Megan.
Oh no, that is very true. And the messed up part about all of it is, I kind of suck at everything else. I'm working an office job at the moment, and it makes me realize that, shit, I'm really only good at this one thing. Oh
Same.
God, please let me back on stage because the poor law office, I think they're ready to get rid of me.
Keep her.
Yeah. They have helped me through this whole thing. So I greatly appreciate it.
Don't let her go.
Oh my God. Yeah, so true. But yes, God help me. I'm trying to, Sam, all my stories they're eluding me at the moment.
I have a question. Just
Yeah.
One of the last little bits of story I got, you suffered an injury a couple of years ago, like an Achilles injury. I just wanted, you're okay now? Yes.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good. As a man that watches sports and I heard what type of injury it was, like, oh no. Oh
the messed up part. So I'm benched basically for the season.
on IR.
And so it gave me a lot of time to watch football. And I remember watching at times, and as I sit there and I think, I did nothing to have that Achilles rupture. And I'm watching all of these figures, and who was it? I'm so embarrassed. I'm forgetting the Bronco who tore his Achilles.
Oh no.
Amazing offensive player. It'll come to me. But anyway, so the whole entire time I looked at Robert, I'm like, I don't understand how these guys don't ever flipping injure themselves. Like, how did they not constantly rupture their Achilles?
Yeah.
And I kid you not, 2 weeks later,
oh,
this player did, and Robert was so pissed off at me. He thought I had purposely, I'd somehow put it out in the universe, and I ruined one of our best players.
Was it Emmanuel Sanders?
Thank you. I should have, and I kept thinking, I was like, how am I messing up this name? And I'm like, of course, same last name as Robert, but Emmanuel Sanders. From his
injury,
yes,
the Niners go to the Super Bowl.
He did, and it was incredible. I think he healed a lot better than I did, probably. Oops.
Well, you're not out there running a 4.5 40 yet?
No, not at all. No, not that I ever did in the first place. So but no, it's fine. It's amazing how quickly. I remember coming back to the dressing room, and I was in the middle. We were in the final dress rehearsal for Mamma Mia at the Arvada Center, and it was very mundane. I was crossing the stage as Jeff Rourke was the bullfighter and I was the bull, and I pushed off my leg to go cross stage to him, and I heard this pop, and I just went down like a ton of bricks. And I'll never forget when Shannon Steele and Piper Arpan came back to the dressing room, and their eyes were just big. And Shannon just looked at Piper and she's like, "We got to start stretching more. We're not young anymore. We really got to start taking care of ourselves." Because it was just that terror. It was that terrifying moment. You were like, "Oh my God, we're all getting old." Oh, that was rough.
I love how you went from star of the show to cautionary tale in like 2 seconds.
Oh, hi. As though that doesn't happen so easily and so quickly.
Yeah, no. But you're absolutely right though. I heard about your injury, and I had been experiencing Achilles tightness for about 2 weeks leading up to that story, and I was like, good call. Those non-contact injuries, Megan, they're the worst.
Oh, it was rough, and then and it's like I lost So I lost that show, and then I had to say goodbye to my Christmas contract right after that. And yeah, well, I mean, it sucks when you've got to. I never call out of a show. I never that's just not my jam. It was so hard to have to miss a whole show, a couple shows because of that. And then having to go to, I tell you what, there's nothing more humbling than to show up at auditions, with your little scooter.
The bent knee one where you're
exactly.
rolling.
Yep. Yeah. Thank God for that scooter, though. The Denver Actors Fund and John Moore presented me with that little scooter, and it saved my life. It gave me some mobility. But yeah, showing up at auditions on a scooter, wow, that just makes, because there's a certain degree of intimidation that you want to walk into the room with, and that scooter just, that kills that. There's no intimidation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty bad. But so I healed from that, only to get back on track again, and then COVID took me out.
Yeah, and then the injury that affected
everyone.
The entire
exactly.
world. Yeah,
exactly.
God, unless you lived in New Zealand or Taiwan.
God, they did such a great job.
Oh, they did. They crushed it. Big ups to those countries.
Seriously, I'm so envious as I watch them all at concerts, and yeah,
just rubbing it in our faces.
Yeah, we kind of
as they absolutely should. They were absolutely within their rights to do so.
Hands down.
Yeah. Megan, at this point in the podcast, I love to ask the title question.
Okay.
What is that ghost light you wish was left on for you that you'd leave on for the next generation?
I was so eager to please all the time. And I think that the majority of my early days, I was so scared to ask a question. If I was in an audition and I could get a sense that whatever I was giving was not what that director was looking for, I just, at times, I lacked the ability to stop and to say, I'm not giving you what you want right now. Can you more clearly define what I need to do that? Because I want to give you what you want, but I can't, I just feel like I'm not dialing it in. I was so scared for so many years, Sam, to actually just ask a question. And so I think that would be my advice. I'd never be afraid to ask a question, never be afraid to gain greater clarity on what someone is asking you to do, and never be afraid to trust your instincts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm so glad that we are able to sit down and have this podcast.
Yeah.
And talk to each other, because it's funny how so much of the things that excite you, make you happy, and bring out you is some of the same things. I mean, being an artist aside, I mean, the sports, underdog movies, I mean, just, Taco Bell, and then to hear you say the conversation, or I should say the statement about asking a question. That was my biggest thing. I went from being scared to being an actor to being overconfident about every choice I was making, and at times being an uber asshole to a lot of people, to then going starting to realize that and start dialing it down and find my balance. Yeah. I went down. That's exactly what happened. I went from scared and timid to being fucking arrogant, but never asking a question still, because I had all the answers. I didn't need to ask a question anymore. I know what they want. I got this.
Isn't it amazing? I wish that at times, I remember being in my first Arvada show, I was in this dressing room with this group of women that were phenomenal, and had so much to share. And it's like, I just want to go back and look at myself and go, shut the fuck up and just listen. Just don't add, don't try to, contribute. Just listen to what these women are saying and sharing and talking about, and learn. Marcus Waterman was so important in one of the shows that I was doing, because I remember I was confused and I was irate and I wasn't getting the direction I needed. And I remember Marcus would just sit back and he would just listen quietly to everything. and then would very quietly approach the director and just ask some questions. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be Marcus. I want to learn how to be like Marcus and conduct myself in that manner. I still haven't gotten there, Sam. I'm still I'm so not that quiet person. Now I feel the need to have to ask too many questions, as most directors will point out. But yeah, but oh God, I wish that I would not have been so scared to assert myself when I was younger.
Well, it all comes at the right time when
I
it's ready
suppose.
to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Megan Vandehay, thank you so much for being a
Hey,
guest of the
Sam.
Ghost Sites podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been so easy and lovely talking with you.
Good. That makes me very happy. More than a stuffed grilled burrito from Taco Bell.
Oh, Sam, nay, my friend. You cannot leave me like that.
I won't. In fact, I will leave you with a little bit of John Legend.
Oh.
Let's see if I can do it here.
Okay.
Girl, I'm in love with you. This ain't the honeymoon. We're past the infatuation phase. We're right in the thick of love. At times we get sick of love. It seems like we argue every day. The Ghost Sites podcast, everybody. Megan Vandehay is the guest. Ghosties at home, I hope you listen. Hope you tell your friends. And I hope you get your tickets to your opening night show as soon as they let us have them again. Big ups to the Aurora Fox. They got something going on with some friends of the pod, the Yulin Hops, Kelly and Andrew, as well as Maggie Tisdale. Make sure if you can and you feel comfortable with it, go get a ticket. And if you don't beat yourself up because we will be back. Live theater will not die. Dan, do the damn thing. Yeah.
Oh my God, I kind of like that because trust me, Sunday morning is one of my favorite shows. So I just love ending with the trumpet. It's very apropos.
Nice.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, thank you so much. It was a great conversation.